Greeting coaches, you are listening to the All Access Coaching Podcast powered by the Glazier Drive. My name is Rick Stewart and I created All Access Coaching with a vision of coaches helping coaches, which is why I partner with the folks at Glazier, because they share the same vision as I do. Everything that All Access Coaching and Glazier does is focus on one thing, making you a better coach. Hosted by allaccesscoaching.com. This podcast is brought to you by Team Nation, a digital playbook that your players can instantly access on their phones in a video game type of learning experience. Build your playbook online or pull it from a library. View how often your players looked at it, or should I say played it, because they will feel like they're playing a Madden-like video game while learning your playbook. You can go check that out at teamnationsports.com. Today's podcast, I'm really excited. I'm very passionate about what we're going to talk about today. This podcast will talk about free resources to improve you as a coach and increase the knowledge of your coaching staffs. This podcast is a testimonial of how the coaching community is always willing to share and pay it forward. True Impact Football is a nonprofit organization providing critical resources for coaches, specifically in the underserved coaching communities. And I'm very excited to introduce Josh Peterson. Hey, Josh, welcome. We're here on a Friday morning. You're in Colorado, I'm in California, and I'm really passionate about this subject, right? I was that young coach in the 20s where, I was always looking for the secret play, and it was all about playbooks, and I was like Henry Fonda in The Water Boy, and I had all my secret plays. And, as you go through your coaching journey, you realize it's really about relationships and the impact you make on kids. And the big platform we have, we say that a coach will touch 10,000 lives, right? Coaches and teachers, nurses, and those kind of professions are kind of unique in that they touch probably more people than the average. And we all know that not every school's equal in terms of finances and support and parent support and things like that. But every child is equally important, whether you're at the real affluent private school or a school from a larger city or a poor rural community. There's no levels of this kid is more important and this kid deserves more money, right? So I'm really excited to have you on, Josh, and I'm going to stop babbling and kind of introduce you, let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Rick. And I mean, that resonates with me too, when you talk about the impact that coaches have on the lives of players. My life is a testimony that I've benefited from amazing coaches along the way. My high school football coach, he taught me lessons I continue to draw from in my business career. And that's why I get super excited about this nonprofit that I'm a part of with True Impact Football and what we're doing for coaches. So, and you nailed it. I mean, coaching is a complex sport. That's preaching to the choir for your listeners. And so for coaches that need to stay on top of their game, need to figure out, the latest schemes, the latest programs, the latest routes to teach their players. It's a huge undertaking. And especially when, for these programs that don't have access to the resources, which I'll talk about here in a second, kind of what I mean by that. But it's a big challenge. It's a big hurdle that we're trying to address.
Awesome. Yeah. I really want to emphasize this is a nonprofit organization. So you're not on the podcast trying to sell something, right? I mean, this is important. You and I are here about, how can we help coaches get better in their trade? Because in effect, there's a domino effect. Every coach we can help, that's next season is going to impact 30 or 40 kids. And then of course, in the coach's career. So I want to emphasize that, Josh is not representing some company who's going to go into some sort of sales pitch, coaches. This is about, some free online resources that can make you a better coach. So stick around. This is going to be very, very powerful if you're emotional about helping kids and not just looking for the next secret play. Yeah. So coach, let's just jump right into it. Where did the vision for True Impact Football come from? What inspired this and why now?
Yeah, no, it really came from our CEO, Chris Coughlin. He's had this vision for a couple of years now. And it stemmed from a particular experience he had when he was coaching. He was coaching special teams. This is a few years back. And he was with frankly, one of the more affluent schools in Colorado. And, they were playing a team in Eastern Colorado. And by studying film, he knew, hey, this is going to be, we're going to crush this team, frankly. And he was driving into town. For whatever reason, he was not on the team bus. I think he had some things tied up that afternoon, so he was in his car. And as he was coming into town, he slammed on his brakes and whipped the U-turn because he saw a field that just caught his attention, and it was effectively a gravel pit. That I'm exaggerating to make the point, but there was a sled out in the middle of that field, and actually I'm going to pull that picture up here. That just tattered, right? And it just gripped him to the heart of the issues that has been on his heart for a long time. Of this is the challenge in, low income areas. And this one in particular, kind of out in rural Colorado, right? A tattered sled that players had to work with. And so from that, it just has snowballed into, hey, how can we share resources with communities like this? And that spawned into, hey, let's actually start a nonprofit. So that's how True Impact Football as a separate entity has come into play. But this gap that we see, we talk about the resource gap that we're addressing.
Hey, Coach, before you jump into the gap, I want to make this clear for our viewers. This is the owner of Glazier Clinics, Chris Coughlin, who's been the owner of Glazier Clinics for, I think, close to 30 years since he bought out the Glazier family. And Chris, as I know, is he coaches football there in his community. Started when he coached his son, and he's continued. So this is the owner of Glazier who's pulling up to a football game as an assistant coach. He's seeing this. And so True Impact, the whole nonprofit, this vision was started by him as a separate kind of entity of Glazier. Am I correct? This is the vision of the owner of Glazier Clinics.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is a separate entity. You're spot on, Rick. And it's spawned from him just over the years, seeing what's happening to the game in some of these communities. And this is an issue in urban, downtown metro areas, just as much as it is in small town Wisconsin, where I grew up. Right. I mean, I go back home and there's a lot of small teams that are co-oping together just to keep a team alive. Right. This is, we crunched the numbers on this. There's over 5,000 high school programs around the country that we consider under-resourced.
I want to jump into that. I want to jump in that. The stereotype is it's the large city, right? It's the large inner city schools. I'm thinking of New York City, where there's literally no grass, right? They have all just asphalt. But my coaching career, and Josh is ex-military like myself when I got out of the Marine Corps, my first head coaching job was at Little Old McFarland. It's the Netflix movie that Kevin Costner has made famous. And I get handed the keys, and literally my entire football budget for the AD gave me was $2,500, right? And that's to cover footballs and kicking tees and mouthpieces. And all I wanted to do was take the kids to a camp. I wanted to take them to the beach, and we were going to spend one night at this camp and play some 7-on-7. And it was so challenging because this little town of McFarland has a population of about 10,000. It's what they call a farm labor community. There's no businesses in town. Literally, I'm not kidding. There was a pizza parlor and a McDonald's who was getting hit up by, every club and every church in town. I had no way to turn to even raise money. There's no business owners. All of my parents are field workers, great human beings, honest, hardworking field workers, picking grapes. They're in the kind of the backyard of Cesar Chavez. And I really was frustrated. I had nowhere to turn to raise this money. And so, Coach, Josh, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, it was very challenging. What I ended up, I'm not going to get into details, but I had to get very creative. I had to run some AAU basketball tournaments to raise money. We would find old abandoned buildings and find out who the owner was. It was usually a larger business that was not in our community. I'd email them and say, hey, for a couple $100, my football team will come in and clean up this abandoned building. And that's what we did. We had to just kind of go out and really hustle just to raise $2,500 just to go spend one night. And of course, Friday nights, we're playing these other schools where they've got budgets of 20, 30, 40, 50,000. They've got end zone cameras. They've got matching coaching jackets. They've got home and away jerseys. So this is, I'm getting kind of teary eyed. I'm so honored to be part of this. So it's not just the inner city school. There's a lot of rural schools that are struggling with this. I was one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so everything you just said is proving our passion to a T, because this gap that we talk about in terms of resources, we're not trying to solve that through, just cutting a check straight to the school. We're not looking for new equipment, new jerseys, new helmets, because there's a ton of programs already doing that kind of work. And I totally support those efforts. And I think they're fantastic. But our niche and our passion is with the football coach and their staff. So everything you just talked about, Rick, I mean, your testimony to that of like, you invest in a coach, our conviction is that investment has a really long tail and it ripples into the community. It impacts parents. Of course, it impacts the lives of players. So that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day, is pour resources into the coach and their staff, because it just has this ripple effect that impacts it, really has a long impact. So
you kind of segmented into my next question. I was going to ask you, why have you chosen to invest in the coaches instead of players? Like you said, you could just cut checks all over the country. And I think there's a bunch of government models that prove that doesn't work. Right. So I think you kind of answered it. If you want to expand, or we can move on. I just had a question here. Why have you chosen to invest in coaches as the cause? Why not other ways to support these programs? And I think you kind of touched on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe going a step deeper. We believe at the end of the day, it's kind of as simple as investing in a person versus in stuff. And again, fully support all the other material and equipment investments that are going on out there. I think there's great, those are solving practical needs that need to be solved. But we get back to just the passion of connecting with the coach and their staff. And this program impacts the high school level. So the entire high school football coaching staff, down to any feeder middle school programs and youth programs that might be affiliated with these schools. So in some cases, some communities, this is hitting a few dozen coaches that all wrap into that one program. But that's our heart and our passion, is prop up the football coach, because they're gonna take these resources and really make sure that they last and have impact throughout the whole community.
Awesome. Can you walk me through the types of resources these coaches get?
Sure. The resources kind of wrap into three different categories. The first is helping them coach more effectively. So all you coaches listening, we want to help you be a better football coach at the end of the day. The second category is helping you raise leaders and develop the character of your players. And the third is helping your booster clubs run more effectively. So let me unpack those a little bit more, because there's some key partnerships that come into play, and I've got them listed here. And I'll walk through each of those categories. So the first, helping you with the X's and O's of the game. That's where our partnership with Glazier clinics comes into play. So every qualifying school that for True Impact Football, which I'll talk about the qualifying, what that means here in a minute, but every school gets a season pass from Glazier clinics. So that means attend any clinic around the country, access the Glazier Drive, which is the online portal, for 24/7 year round. Tons of videos and forums available there. So that's helping with the X's and O's of the game. The second category is helping raise leaders. And for that, we've partnered with Lead 'em Up. They're a fantastic organization out of Baltimore, and they're in a couple thousand schools around the country already, but they kind of go deeper, right? They cover topics like trust, how to respect your teammates, integrity, honesty. And those topics, I mean, to be honest, Rick, those are some tough ones to get high school athletes excited about, but Lead 'em Up is super engaging. They've got a couple programs that one is tiered toward, any player. Another one is specifically for team captains. So that second category I'm talking about is all about raising leaders. I mean, to be blunt about it, just, helping raise better people and kind of go down a layer from just the technique of the game. So that's kind of the second category. The third one is this Booster Club Academy partnership we have. And Booster Club Academy is all about equipping coaches to raise more money through their booster clubs. So that's an online course. It includes videos. It's got a short course that and includes some tools as well that coaches will walk through. And in many cases, that means handing that off to the leader of the booster club, whichever parent or leader that's running it. Everything from, hey, I don't even know how to start a 501c3 booster club, to we've got one running, but we'd love to kind of optimize or make it run more efficiently. Give us some ideas of some creative fundraisers to get our parents more involved. That's what the Booster Club Academy is all about. So, and yeah, you see on the slide here, man, that's all market value of all these resources over $1,000. But when we get down to what this costs our donors, it's $200 per school. And I know we'll get into that of how coaches can give back and kind of pay it forward and get involved here. But those are the resources. So it's all about coaching the game more effectively, raising leaders, and fundraising more effectively in their community.
I want to touch on that. If you're a coach listening to this podcast, maybe you're a young coach, you haven't become a head coach yet, or you are a head coach at a struggling program and we kind of caught you in the beginning and you're like, yeah, I want some free resources. I was that coach and it was always Glazier clinics. It was always, I never missed the San Francisco and LA one. And I would go up and I thought the way I was going to start winning games. So let me back up. That first school McFarland I was at, they were 0-24. They were on a 24-game losing streak when I took over. I had $2,500 budget and I had 13 players on my roster. Seriously, I coached. We went 2-8 that year. We lost a couple games like 60-0. It was running clock before kickoff. And I remember our last game, we did win in double overtime. I get so proud of those boys. And we had 13 players. It was 4 coaches on the sideline, 2 subs. So coaches, I've been there. And you know what? I left that season. I'm a young 28-year-old kid who didn't know diddly about football. And so I'm thinking, I got to fix my playbook. I just need a better offensive system. I need to fix our defense. Well, I ended up turning that program around and we went to playoffs, and I took an 0-27 team and we went to the playoffs and on and on. I took a really large school that had never won a playoff game in 100 years. And we played for 2 district or section championships. And what I'm going to tell you coaches now that are listening is what Josh just said. That was the key. It took me about 7 years for my stubborn brain to let it sink in that it wasn't the playbook. The way we turned those programs around was we did build up leaders. We did invest in their character, and we built the players from the inside out. Us coaches invested and did become getter coaches. And yeah, the playbook's important, and we learned better techniques and better tackling and better ways of teaching. And I was going to 4 or 5 Glazier clinics a year. I mean, seriously, that's how my relationship with Chris, the owner, started 25 years ago. But really I look back and the key was the leadership in the locker room and the captains and the character. Yeah. When you build it from the inside out, coaches, when you invest in these kind of courses, honestly, it almost doesn't matter what play you call on the sideline because of the power you created in the huddle and the belief in each other. And then the booster clubs have struggled. That McFarland one, I started a 501c from the beginning, and I started another 501c at the next school I was at. Oh my gosh, I wish I had a booster club academy. I was Googling and visiting and talking, and I was making mistake after mistake after mistake. And I'd get these letters from the IRS saying, you filed your paperwork wrong, start over. And I'm going to these accountants begging them for pro bono time. Like, will you guys just help me fill out this paperwork? Because you have to do articles of incorporation and you have to do a lot of legal stuff for the IRS to say you don't have to pay taxes. So getting the booster club started and keeping the booster club going and then managing your booster club, because you're sitting at the booster meeting with the parent of the kid who maybe you benched Friday night. This is some treacherous waters, but to build a program, you have to have a booster club, not just financially, but your booster club's feeding your team and they're providing lunches on the away games. There's manpower in that booster club. Josh, I'm getting so fired up and I'm sitting there going, where the hell were you about 25 years ago when I was at McFarland with 13 players and $2,500? Coaches, you've got to be listening to this, because it's not about the pistol wing T system or the air raid system or all these systems other than Glazier Drive and the systems I have. That's not the secret sauce. I hope you're listening to Josh right now. So no, I had to get up on my soapbox because this was hitting home.
Oh, I love it. I mean, you're spot on, because that stuff does matter, right? Your offensive scheme and your technique, it's got to be spot on. I mean, the game is getting more and more competitive, so you have to have that technical aspect buttoned down. And that's why the partnership with Glazier is so pivotal, because the amount of resources that these coaches will get. But yeah, going deeper and saying, hey, let's invest deeply in the leadership, the character of our team captains. Let's equip our captains to pass on these lessons to the rest of the team. Right. And that's already getting a huge response for the schools that we're sponsoring. So no, you're spot on.
Coaches, if you're seeing the slide or listening to this, and I forgot this is a podcast too. So, what they're saying is with a $200 donation of a school that qualifies for free with the $200 donation, they would get a $400 Glazier season pass. They'd get a $100 Lead 'em Up leadership course. They'd get a $50 Lead 'em Up captains course, and they'd get a $500 membership to the Booster Club Academy. So they're getting like $1,000 worth of resources with this $200 donation. So kind of we've got a twofold, right? You've got the people who are giving it back and paying it forward and providing you the $200 donations. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be one of those people. I'm going to definitely be writing you a check. This is awesome what you're doing. And then you've got the schools, that new coach that like I was at McFarland 25 years ago, who needs this. And you're saying that if the school qualifies, these are all free resources provided to them. What kind of support and interest are you seeing with this so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible to see the momentum already. And I'll talk about the qualifying aspect, and then I'll kind of go into the momentum. So you hit on it briefly already. Like our vision is reaching 5,000 schools that fit what we talk about as under-resourced. So we qualify that by schools that have football, obviously, and the criteria being at least 40% of their students qualify for free or reduced price lunch. That's kind of our metric of, hey, that qualifies as likely there's not a massive budget for the coach to draw on for these resources. And so that's our metric. That gets us these 5,000 programs around the country. And you see some of the numbers, and this is conservative numbers in terms of the number of coaches, 50,000 coaches, 250,000 players. It kind of stems beyond that when you talk about associated middle school and youth programs that are affiliated with these high schools. But the momentum we're seeing has been phenomenal. We've got a couple key partners that are helping us already, and we've got several hundred schools that are already getting access to these resources. So I'll mention a couple of those. First is the NFL Foundation. They partnered with us a couple months ago and said, yeah, we're sponsoring 10 schools in every NFL market. That means the Broncos in Colorado, right? They're sponsoring 10 schools around Colorado, and same in every single NFL city. And the response from that has been overwhelming. Actually, we just did our first wave of outreach to these schools earlier this week. And I mean, within an hour, I was hearing back from these coaches, this is amazing. Because it was all kind of the messaging was, hey, the Denver Broncos or the Green Bay Packers are covering your membership to True Impact Football. And then, it takes them through a process and portal where they can access all of this stuff really easily, get to the resources pretty simply. But to not only see the NFL Foundation latch onto this and then each club get excited about it, but also the response from the coaches that are receiving this, it's been super rewarding to see that. Our second, prominent partner in this area, and you mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, Rick, is Team Nation. They've said, yeah, we're all in on this. They've gotten really excited about this initiative. And so they're doing as well kind of a nationwide push to sponsor schools around the country, because it matters. I mean, they've got a phenomenal product, as those that are listening can go out and check out what Team Nation is all about. And they want to give back to the community. And this meant a ton to their CEO. It really gripped his heart, just like it has our team. And so, yeah, it's exciting to see the momentum starting and kind of the response that we're getting already.
So those are the two main ones so far that's jumped behind us, the NFL Foundation and Team Nation?
Most notable ones that I want to mention, yeah, there's definitely other
obviously Lead 'em Up.
Other partners. Yep. And there's others, and there's a few in like other smaller markets, but those are the most notable ones I wanted to mention because they have kind of a nationwide reach and what they're helping us accomplish.
And again, and this is not a self-serving shout out, coaches. Glazier's behind this. This is Glazier's vision. This is Glazier putting their vision into practice, and Glazier basically saying, hey, these underserved coaches, you can come to Glazier clinics and be on the Glazier Drive for free. So it doesn't go without mentioning that this is a passion of Glazier, and they're stepping up to the table with some resources that have monetary value.
That's a great point, Rick. I mean, and at the same time, it's important that True Impact Football is a separate entity. We've gone beyond Glazier, and that's kind of been there from the start. Hey, let's expand this. Let's partner with other organizations like Lead 'Em Up. Let's make sure that we're going beyond just the technical aspects of the game, because, back to the core problem we're addressing, it's complicated, right? It's not just come to the Glazier clinics and your problems will be solved, right? There's multi-facets here that we're trying to really support the coaches with. So yes, you're hitting it nail on the head, and it's even more than that. And kind of the vision on the Glazier side is, let's take this beyond just the clinics. This is about so much more than that. So
right, yeah, it's got to be about the coach, the player, the parent. Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, this is really awesome. Coach, I'm going to tell you right now, All Access Coaching and Rick Stewart's going to get behind this. I already had done my homework and kind of knew what Josh was doing, but I'm just thinking, when I was out there at McFarland, how do I help the Rick Stewart that's at some McFarland in America now? Because I remember the struggle, and my wife became passionate about it. She's a daughter of a field worker. So she was like, you have to have the supportive wife. And she's like, Rick, go help those kids. And lots of nights and weekends and coming home at 9 p.m. because, I'm out there washing cars, because I just, what can I do to get these kids to a camp? What can I do to get these kids in New Jersey? What can I do to just get these kids a meal on their away games? And of course, back then, I'm going to tell you a funny story. So my first Glazier clinic, my AD calls in, we're 2-8. We had a couple of running clocks. I'm a first-year head coach. I didn't apply to be the head coach. I actually walked into McFarland with a substitute teacher application. I had not started the teaching credential program. I just got out of the Marine Corps on the GI Bill, got my degree. And about 15 minutes later, I'm driving down the road. It's so long ago, I get paged. I don't even have a cell phone. They page me, and I had to pull over and dial the John Lithgow 1-800 whatever on the payphone. They still had payphones. Yep. And Dr. Cardenas answers and says, hey, did you just leave a substitute teaching application? Yes, I did. Can you turn around, come back? I want to talk to you. Well, I turn around, come back, have a conversation with him. I walk out of his office as the new physics teacher. Now, understand my degree's in biology, but I'm the new physics teacher, and I'm the head football coach. And by the way, football practice is starting in 13 days. My AD's going to call you tomorrow. So I'm like, right. And so we go 2-8. It's a struggle, and I'm making mistake after mistake every day. My AD's having to call me in. He's working with me. He's like, Rick, you can't do that. Rick, you got to do better. Blah, blah. He calls me in and says, hey, I bought you a pass to the Glazier clinics. I didn't have a penny in my name. So I drive up to San Francisco, Josh, my first Glazier clinic. And I get up to the hotel, and they're at Hilton's and Marriott's, and those hotels are expensive. So I have to stay down the road at Motel 6, back when Motel 6 was $19.99. I go to the Glazier clinic. I think I'm in Disneyland. I can't go to enough sessions. I'm taking notes and notepads. I have to go down the road on Friday night and stay at a Motel 6. Now I'm out of money, and I'm thinking I'm coming home Saturday night. But I'm having so much enlightenment with all these clinics and these coaches. Yeah, I'm not kidding in this. I slept in my car that night because I didn't have enough money to stay at Motel 6 the next night. I stayed in my car that night, got up, went to the 2 Sunday morning sessions. So I was one of those 12 guys that stay on Sunday morning.
A fanatic, yeah.
Drive home. My wife's like, what do you mean you slept in the car? You said you're coming on Saturday night. I'm going, but honey, look at all these notes. and oh, by the way, the reason I had to sleep in my car is because I dumped like $50 on DVDs at the vendor thing. So yeah, to help the Rick Stewart who's going through now what I went through 25 years ago. Holy moly. So I just gave my testimony. Do you have some other examples of coaches latching onto this program yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is catching steam. And I think I want to pull the thread a little bit more from what you just talked about, because the coaching community is one of the most powerful communities on the planet. And that's the groundswell that we're seeing here of something that it gives coaches, it gives companies, organizations. I mean, we're hearing from leaders in, large organizations that grew up playing football, and this grips them, and they don't have, they want to give back to the game, and they're waiting for something like this where yes, my coach impacted me, set me off on the right foot in my career. I want to give back. Right. But it's also the power of, like, you're talking about what you experienced at the Glazier clinic. I'm guessing some of that was just the energy of being around your peers for a weekend solid, right? And the networking and the connection.
That like-minded, right? Like-minded. Yep. And not only the successful coaches who were speaking at the time, but I actually would bump into coaches that were like, "Oh, I was 2-8 also. Let's have a beer."
Exactly. Let's share some of the pain. So that's a huge appeal to other coaches out there that are looking for an opportunity to give back, right? Or to pay it forward and say, hey, yeah, I've grown my scars over the last 20 years. I want to share some of what I've learned, or provide resources to those that are just getting started or are in these tough environments, or don't have the budget to kind of invest in themselves and their coaching staff. So that's what I love about the energy of the coaching community coming together around a cause like this, that we're, it gets me super excited.
I hope all you coaches driving your car to work right now, listening to this, are excited as I am. And I'm thinking there's a lot of gray area, but I'm thinking there's two boxes here, right? There's the coach who's like, yes, I need these resources. And then there's the coach is like, well, I'm kind of blessed. I feel even more blessed after listening to this podcast. So let's hit those two, Josh. If I'm a teacher or coach in a situation like I was 25 years ago at McFarland, what can that coach do? How do they get in touch with you? How do they become part of this program? The coach that needs that help.
Yeah. The easiest way is trueimpactfootball.org. Or you can just Google True Impact Football. You'll see it there. And there's a process for applying that's available there. Or if, another easy way is just emailing. We've got our email address there on the website. So that's the quickest way. Look through the site, and that's your way of raising your hand saying, hey, I think I qualify. Then for us on our side, the True Impact Football team, we're finding donors to cover the cost for eligible schools. So those of you that, raising your hand saying I'm one of those coaches, to me, then that's finding a donor to cover the cost. And that's what we're doing all the time. So that's the one.
Coaches, if you find the showcast notes, I'll make sure the links and the emails, I will have it on my webpage, allaccesscoaching.com. This podcast will be up on the Glazier Drive, I'm guessing, in a week or two. So there's a bunch of places, coaches, if you were driving, you couldn't write what Josh just said down. We'll have links. It'll be on my website. It'll be on the Glazier Drive. We'll have links in a lot of places. Josh's PowerPoint will make that a downloadable thing for you. So I would say if you weren't able to drive anywhere, coaches, Google True Impact, go to allaccesscoaching.com or go to the Glazier Drive. And we'll have all that up there. Coach, the other side of it is I'm now in a situation where I'm a blessed coach. I'm in a really good situation, both personally and in my, and the school I'm at. So, how can I pay it forward? How can I, because I'm really speaking, I'm going to make a donation. I'm going to sponsor a couple schools. How do I become that guy?
Yeah. So if you go to True Impact Football, you're going to see two big words in bold all over the place. Join us. And so, there's no way to get around it. You'll see it everywhere. Join us. That takes you to a donation page. There's a lot of different ways to give. It's a tax deductible donation because we are a nonprofit. And it's a way, we see it as like, that's part of giving back. It's part of being a guardian of the game, investing in the future. So really those are the heroes that we're looking for. Those of you that are able to join us for this cause, and we will be matching those donations with those coaches that raise their hands saying, "Yeah, we qualify for this." So it's really easy through the site to donate. And again, you'll find it on trueimpactfootball.org.
And are we free to say, did I read the slide right? If a guy's been moved by this, basically for a $200 donation, I can contribute to this cause and help one of my coaching colleagues in the coach community. So for as little as $200, I can impact an entire school in my state or in some other part of the country.
That's right. Yep. Okay. And it extends through that qualifying high school coaching staff, any feeder middle school programs and affiliated youth programs. So it's a big impact for only $200. Yeah.
If I'm thinking like the little situation I'm at, if you're thinking high school, middle school, you're going to impact anywhere from 16 to 20 coaches, and you could impact as up to 100, 150 players when you're getting down to middle school. So for $200, you're going to impact close to 200 lives just at one school.
Yeah.
Wow. Josh, I'm so excited. Coaches, I'm going to go on a personal note. I know the owner of Glazier very personally. Obviously Josh does too. His name's Chris Coughlin. He is a very generous man. He's not just some guy who's running clinics and trying to make money off coaches. That's not Chris. I'm telling you, it's not Chris. He's helped my family personally in times of needs. And I know lots of other stories where he's done that. So, Josh is the front man and Josh is running with this. This is really exciting that this is a vision of Glazier. And I'm going to tell you, coaches, this is not some marketing gimmick. This is Chris Coughlin. He has that kind of heart. And I can see where he would get behind something like this. I can totally see it after having many, many lunches with the man. So this is exciting. Josh, you want any closing thoughts, and we'll kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the chance to share the vision, Rick. It's, we've tried to make it pretty easy and compelling to get involved. Again, I think maybe the closing note for me is how excited it is to be a part of helping the coaching community. I mean, this is a rich, important community in terms of its impact that it has on the lives of many people. So, thanks for the chance to be on the podcast, Rick. Really appreciate it.
Coaches, we're going to wrap this up. I'm so emotional right now. This is so moving. So like I said, all the links to the website, how you can get involved, we'll make it in the show notes. We'll have links to all this on my website, allaccesscoaching.com. We'll make sure it's on the Glazier Drive also, that there's a place. It's probably where Glazier Drive is going to start storing these podcasts. Josh and I are honored. We're the first one in this All Access. I've done podcasts before, but with All Access Coaching Glazier Drive, this was our first podcast. So Josh and I are kind of like walking on the moon right now. So if this was your first time listening to our podcast, make sure you subscribe, as we will be doing 3 of these every week. They're always free. Every Monday, we will interview a coach or partner from the Glazier Drive family. Thursdays, we will interview coaches from the All Access Coaching family. And on Sunday nights, it's just Rick Stewart rambling about program building, wing T, 4-2-5 defense, strength changing, and just all the stuff that I'm passionate about after 32 years of coaching. Like I said, they're always free. And these podcasts and downloads that go with them are always free. If the coach has a PowerPoint that goes with it, I always make that as a downloadable so you can download it while you're listening or watching. This is not just a podcast. This is a video recording. The video will be on the Glazier Drive. The video will be on the All Access Coaching website. We'll have it on our All Access Coaching YouTube channel. And I can't speak for Glazier, but it's probably going to be on the Glazier YouTube channel. So you can find all those resources, the podcasts, of course, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else podcasts are found. There's tons of free PowerPoints, PDFs, and webinars at both the Glazier Drive and the All Access Coaching websites. So make sure you follow us on either website or our YouTube channels. I've got my Coach Rick Stewart Twitter account, my Coach Rick Stewart Facebook page, and then there's the YouTube channels. There's the All Access Coaching YouTube channel and the Glazier Clinics YouTube channel. Again, these are all free resources. I hope our passion came out. Glazier, myself, my company, Josh, we do. There's, sometimes you have to buy a book or a DVD, or you have to pay to go to clinic, but we make sure that we give back free resources tenfold for, every $1 that you might pay us for something. We're going to make sure you get $10 worth of free resources. That's very, very important. Because again, I was that coach that had to sleep in my car to just attend a clinic, right? So Josh, this has been so exciting. I think we can wrap up now. And thank you for sharing this mission and vision. You really got me fired up on this Friday morning.
Awesome. Thanks again, Coach Stewart. Appreciate it.